form aspiration. All right, the initial verse: to penetrate the Dharma of one reality is to see the path and have deep faith. The Dharma of one reality. Obviously, this is referring to the one vehicle. And obviously, I think we are fortunate that the teachings of the Buddha have all been reviewed, although we are in a Dharma degenerating age. So therefore, we start off by being able to know about all the vehicles. But imagine if one was in the era when there is the first vehicle being reviewed, the middle vehicle being reviewed, then we were in that state. We don't know there is the great vehicle. And that's the state that why we need to have, or rather that at that time, that deep faith is required to be in that state to realize. And then uphold great vehicle practices and cultivate the path is to have understanding. And obviously, I think it's hard when you have understood the small vehicle and the middle vehicle well, and then you're going to have that on a great vehicle. And I think that's why the two, if you like, these are the two great efforts that one needs to have to realize that great vehicle. So to follow the Buddha and listen to Dharma is to be a true hearer. So, I mean, even for me, I regard myself when I listen to Dharma, I'm just a hearer. And obviously, much like in applying the practice, that I go out and cultivate and adopt the teachings to heart, then we then get into the what they call the path of application. But in terms of the path of accumulation, that's what I am. I'm just accumulating as much as I can in learning. So the skillful means and analogies awaken the aspiration to seek boldly. So begin the hearer, that's for oneself, and then seek the body, and is to walk the path which is broad and applying the teachings and sharing the teachings with others and to help others, and that's where the difference is. So that means it is not just for ourselves, it is also for others. So in Master's explanation, we must pay particular attention to our minds to enter the Dharma and to experience through our daily living and understand. And that's a part that I just mentioned earlier, that we need to apply that to experience. But the experience is not just ourselves, but the experience with others. And the great difficulty when it comes to experiential learning is to help others whose minds are weak. And I mean, for myself, I've undertaken to help others whose minds are weak, and that's my lifelong. This might going to be my journey. It also is not going to be easy, but the things that if I help them, I actually learn a lot in the process. They are just as much my teachers when I share with them and help them. So, and because when I do that sort of work, I actually understand the workings of the Dharma. So when we understand the Dharma, we know all things are without self. And if you look at all the great teachers, and I'm fortunate to be able to talk to some of these great masters. I remember once I had a conversation with the abbot of Dharamsala. Dharamsala is the abode monastery of the Dalai Lama, and he was then based in Germany, and obviously then traveling around Europe. And I asked him why, and there was a time when we had a private audience with the Dalai Lama. And so before that, we had an audience with the abbot. So I was talking to him. And I asked him what was his greatest challenge when he was based in Germany. And he said, mental affliction. I say you'll be surprised at how many people are mentally afflicted where he was. And that was, I mean, it resonates very well to what I see as my experiential learning. So we do not wait until something happens to us before we try to find a way to apply the Dharma. When something happens, all of us can come together as if one mind to find a way to help others. And that's why I put up this line, because that's what I'm trying to do. Okay. Find a way, and I hear a lot of stories and such, obviously, all these stories that how they got woken up to get into the path, and they're all fascinating stories, very heartwarming and very touching. And that's why I feel very embarrassed when, and every time I go for a session, the big session, the class in Sochi, they always ask me, brother, can you go out and share? And I always keep telling them, number one is I don't have an exciting story. I do not have a sob story to tell. And all my stories are utterly boring. So it is not conducive to inspire others. My tweet will always, whoever they may be, whether it was in Hualien or whether in when we were in Jakarta or whether we were here in Malaysia, much that I would like to, but there are no inspirational stories from my side. So to follow the Buddha and listen to Dharma is to be a true hearer. He did not just want to listen to and take sounds in our hearts. The Buddha changed his direction towards these are skillful means. I see this skillful means. He used many methods to create knowledge. This is the skillful means. Comes from here when something come together as find a way, a way to help others. That way is where the skillful means reside. That's the reason why I find it fascinating to help those with mental weaknesses. And because sometimes it just has a way out. You just have to find that door. And so you got to knock to many doors. And that's why in the end, that's where you get your skillful means. So we must develop our minds and our wisdom through this skillful means. And also we understand that life is full of suffering. So we must aspire and vow to seek the Bodhi path, to walk. So the lessons learned. You can accomplish a lot from the principle emptiness. We can eliminate affliction from our minds. We can master the skill. Then we can further understand how condition converge to give rise to things, and how conditions disperse, things will cease. Is it the hearers can practice this very well and can master skill, but that's only for oneself. Now, extend that skill to apply to others, and that's where the Bodhi path is. So all phenomena are impermanent, constantly changing and never abiding. They work on internal cultivation to realize the Dharma through external practice. So this internal cultivation is this part of it. And through the external practice is to helping others. Is helping others to alleviate the pain and the suffering. And to me, I think that is actually very meritorious deed. But to get them out of the mental affliction, it's hard. It's hard. But I personally find it absolutely rewarding and joyful when you can do that. So, and that's exactly what the Buddha did to liberate. The liberation is through the mind. So, and they had understood internal merits and external virtues. So when they heard hearers receiving predictions of the Buddha, they were astonished. How can then hearer can have the prediction? And that's where the aspiration has been formed. We then get into this practice. Obviously, when they hear this prediction, they were joyful in both the body and the mind, and that is part that is say, well, that aspiration is real. So that's why we are fortunate that we are in a position to know about all the three great vehicles all at once. And therefore, we know what's that great vehicle. But in that time, that was not the case, that because the Buddha needs to gradually grow the mind. So in contemplation, the ambition of one is molded by worldly ways from young. If you look, just reflect back about yourself, your life, and what your parents told you, got to study hard, got to work hard, got to find your way, and got to be self-sustaining. When you go to school, you got to be number one, and so on and so forth. So, and make sure that we outbeat the competition when we work, you're better than others. And so we've been molded in the worldly ways from young. Wealth, position, and power are the aspirations of most, because that is how one is judged in accomplishment in the world, is it not? We revere those who are powerful, we revere those which are positioned and wealthy. And that's the aspiration, that's the world we are living. And we are all householders, so we live in that environment. So upon retirement from work, they find little meaning in life because these worldly pursuits are emptiness in nature. So I still remember when I was about to retire, I spoke to a number of people, and the common question they asked me is, what are you going to do after you retire? Honestly, I told them nothing. I have nothing planned. And what I wanted to do was that I wanted to go to Beijing for 6 months, throw myself in Beijing for 6 months. Maybe then I can learn Mandarin. But that never happened, because the day after I retired, I got appointed to various boards and never dig myself up. And so I got continue to be grounded in samsara, because I want to learn Mandarin, because I really want to read the teachings written in Mandarin. So that's where I am. I'm still stuck here. So upon death, many realize that all the attainments evaporate and become meaningless. And some of them do realize that. You can hear of some stories, whether it's whoever these great warriors are, emperors, multi-billionaires, so on and so forth. You hear similar stories. And all these attainments, they just become meaningless and they just evaporate upon death. But by then, it is too late, as one has already spent the entire lifetime in pursuit of worldly goals. So we need to wake up. So on relationship, about purity in relationship, we all are awakened by ambition. I just mentioned, that's how we've been brought up. We are weakened by ambition. And obviously knowing the Dharma assistance right now, hopefully we get to realize this. But we are strengthened by aspiration, which is what today's teaching is about. Is that aspiration? So like we're fortunate, as I said, we have all the three Dharma vehicles that we learn at the same time. So without during the time of the Buddha to learn for 42 years, to learn the small, the middle vehicle, and the greater vehicle, until before the Lotus Sutra was revealed. So we have this aspiration right in front of us, so we need to strengthen that. So be pure and selfless in your thoughts, words, and deeds, just as pure as a smile of a baby. And you know why? Because a baby smiles for no reason, but simply as an expression of the pure heart. Okay, Garden brothers and sisters.